Welcome to In the Black, the podcast that shines a light on resilience, transformation, and the power of reinvention. I'm Araceli, and each week, my co host Shannon and I sit down with incredible women who face some of life's hardest challenges, from personal setbacks to societal obstacles, and have emerged on the other side stronger, driven, and ready to make a difference.
On In the Black, we celebrate these stories of strength and success, diving deep into the journeys of women who turned pain into purpose, adversity into action, and now dedicate themselves to making the world a better place in their own way. They're here to inspire, share hard earned wisdom, and remind us all no matter how dark things may seem, life is cyclical and dawn is coming. So, whether you're looking for inspiration, motivation, or just a reminder that change is always possible, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to In the Black.
Welcome to the podcast. Today, we're excited to introduce Elizabeth Jean Olivia Gagnon, a best-selling international co-author, keynote speaker, and founder of Miss Liz Teatime and Parties. Elizabeth is a passionate advocate for change, dedicated to mental health, abuse recovery, and peace for humanity. She's a former ambassador for Canada's Global Peace Challenge and has held leadership roles in several international organizations, including the Human Rights and Social Justice Federation and the International Rotary Club. As a survivor of extreme abuse, Elizabeth empowers others through events where people share stories of trauma and triumph. She's also the creator of the Tea Story Award and host of Tea Time with Miss Liz, where she's making a difference one cup at a time. Elizabeth has been featured on over 200 global news platforms and has received numerous humanitarian awards, including the 2018 Small Business Person of the Year in Cornwall, Ontario. We're thrilled to have her here today. Listen, I researched you and saw how amazing you were. Oh my goodness, how much you are just like in the business of helping women and creating change. And that is just so beautiful. So, the one thing that was eye-catching to me was the fact that you wrote 4 books, or have you written more?
I'm in 11 books.
Okay, you
I've written 3 of my own books, and I've been in 8 anthology books.
your first books I thought were really interesting. You took your life and including pieces of your story in each book. So take us through your first book where you share your child abuse story. Do you remember when this began and how old you were and how long this went on for?
My first book that I wrote with the compiler Brenda Hammond, who lives in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And she had this book called Hear Me. And as a little girl, I always wanted to be heard, right? Because of the child abuse. And this book was just reaching out to me like, hear me, hear me, hear me. And I didn't even know what the book was about. But then when I found out what the book was about, I was like, oh my goodness, I need this book. So then I started following Brenda Hammond. I started stalking her, like, we do our research, and she put this call out for authors to write in her anthology. At first, she was looking for grandparents who lost their grandchildren. She wanted grandparents' stories, but then she noticed that maybe she needed other stories. So then I had asked her, well, can I share my story? And she's like, absolutely. So when I wrote my first story, I wanted it all out. I wanted all of the heaviness out. I wanted all of that gone, right? So I wrote over 3,000 words. She's like, you have your own book here. We have to break it up. Like, these are chapters. It's only be 1 or 2 pages, Um, so she said, let's do it in stages, because I know there's going to be a book 2, book 3, and that. So I wrote in all 4 of those books for Sacred Hearts Rising. But the child abuse started at the age of 4. Um, and it lasted for 9.5 years until I got pregnant and had a miscarriage. And that's what stopped the abuse finally, was losing my baby at 14. So yeah, it's been a journey. Writing my story has actually healed me. It has opened up my voice and given me that opportunity be the voice for change and for other people out there who are suffering in silence and who want to be heard as well. So it all goes back to hear me, right?
Wow. But you spoke about your family wanting to keep it hush as a child. Is that correct?
It was a hush, right? Because what happened behind closed doors stays behind closed doors, and we don't bring shame to the family, right? Back in the day, like I'm 50 years old, so uh, like it's been many years now. Uh, but for my family, it was the dirty little secret, right? The girl who brought shame to the family, so it was kept quiet for a lot of time. A lot of the people in the community, because where I grew up was a small community, they knew something was up because I was very quiet. It was very inwards. I'd hum a lot. I'd rock a lot. I kind of just stayed to myself. I bundled up, like in the winter, in the summertime, I would wear long sleeve stuff. I would just cover myself, right? So there was flags all over. Um, and as I got older, I always had that voice. I always had the why me? Why why nobody else in the family? What makes me so, you know, I didn't see myself as special. I just see myself as the odd person in the family who just got all the abuse, right? Because I was the quiet one. I wouldn't speak. I would ask questions, but I would ask in different ways. And it started on my fourth birthday, and that's we had to hypnotize me in order to figure out the timeline and stuff like that because I kept seeing birthday candles and strawberry shortcake pajamas and the smell of his cologne and stuff like that. So there was a lot of triggers. I would act and get rage in me if I would smell a certain cologne. So there was a lot of things as I got older. Uh, but my uncle was arrested and charged, went to jail, um, and when he came out, he reoffended. Um, and because I didn't have any support the first time, really from family, I was just like, okay, well, this is just going to happen again. He's going to go to jail for a few months, and it's going to be the same cycle, right? So the second time, I didn't say anything, but I became pregnant. Um, and for my father at the time said, well, just say that a boy at school got you pregnant. Like you just like to run around. You're just like the dirty girl. Um, so for many years, I just said, this boy who kissed me on the cheek got me pregnant. you know and then when I lost the baby from stillborn, that's when he stopped because he knew that there was DNA, like there was proof, right? And he was looking at serious time, so he actually stopped. Um, but they still traumatized me years later. By He had three daughters, and one of his daughters named their baby what I named the little girl that I lost. So it was like a trigger, right? It was like another slap in the face. Oh well, I can't get you this way, but I'll get you that way. So
That's wow. How did he get caught? So, if you were able to talk about it, how did he get caught that first time?
well, the first time he got caught because there was this boy that had a crush on me in school, and he wanted to date me, and what I knew as boyfriends, because it was not just my uncle, there was a couple of family members that were abusing me, and that's how I thought love was, right? All the boys were, all the men in the family were just, I was their play toy. I was the quiet kid. They could do whatever they wanted, right? But this uncle was the one that did the most impact to me, like not unjustifying the other ones who assaulted me and that, but he was the longest and he did the most damage to me. um, so what was the question again?
How he got caught?
Oh, how he
Yeah.
got caught. It was because this boy had wanted to date me in school, and I didn't want another boyfriend. I didn't want any more of that. It hurt. It would, like, if this is what love is, this is what boys do. I don't want it. So I started freaking off and freaking out in school and getting really angry and get away from me and screaming. I was like, I don't want another boyfriend. All these boys are touching me. Da, da, da. And that's when the school got involved and they were like, whoa, 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 there's something going on here with this child. Um, and then they were the ones that called Children's Aid and police station and stuff like that. But had it not been for that boy that wanted to date me, and he's like, I'm so sorry, I like her, like, you know, but he actually saved my life by getting him arrested and that, and getting another one of the members arrested as well, because at that time there was the two of them that, and those two were arrested. My second offender has a life restraining order because he has threatened to kill me. So he's not allowed to be around me at all. That was my godfather. So there was a lot of abuse in my family, and when I shared my story in the first book, I wanted to be that voice of saying, you know what, we don't need to stay silent, you know, and this behind closed doors, whatever happens, stay silent. No, what happens behind closed doors, if it's not right, we need to start being a voice and speaking up. And, you know, but I'm not saying for anybody to put themselves in danger. Find good support systems. For me, it was a lash out that saved my life. It was this boy wanting to go out with me, and I was just like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, it hurts, and I'm tired of being this, you guys can do what you want. And it caused me to have a lot of mental illnesses in my adulthood now, like disassociation, BPD, CPTSD. Like, it caused a lot of damage and a lot of work that I have to work on for the rest of my life, while these abusers get away with a couple months in jail, a couple of years in jail here and there, but we're healing for the rest of our lives.
That's one thing that I don't think people realize is that the journey of healing is not something that is just get over it and you're done. It will literally haunt you for the rest of your life. There's a song by this group called Plum. I don't know if you've heard of them, but it's called Damaged, and it's talking about child sexual abuse and how she feels damaged. And I remember listening to that song for the first time in college and like just breaking down crying. And I was like, this isn't even something. So our abuse was physical growing up, and but just that mindset that the people who love you could hurt you so incredibly badly. And when that's your perception of love, how that impacts literally the rest of your life. And I love that you're giving people a place to share that. I'm breaking out in hives talking about this, but um, I love that you're giving people a place to share that and to feel safe. I think that's so valuable in this world, and I hope that that's what we're doing here within the Black as well. Um, so as you were going through this process, I mean, you lost a baby, and that had to have been incredibly painful and incredibly relieving and so confusing for a 14-year-old girl. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Losing Ashley was actually, and I love to say her name because I want her to be known, right? Because for 36 years, I was not allowed to speak of this child. If I spoke of her, they put me in a psychiatric ward. They had me locked up in straitjackets and said that I was losing my memory and my mind, and that I was creating these
Yes.
visions. And
Who put you in the psychiatric ward?
my parents, for me, it wasn't stranger danger; it was family danger.
So, can I ask you, are you still in communication with your family now?
No, no. I left my family in 2005 when they bailed my ex-husband out of jail for molesting his children.
Wow.
So my family has supported my abusers all my life, and even to this day. And there's a lot of stuff. My story is heavy, and for the listeners, like, I don't share my story so that people feel sorry for me. I share my story because I want you to know that there are other people out there. Shannon, as you share, this is why I share my story, is so that we can all have voices and we can all feel safe, and we can all give that hope and inspiration to other people to say, you know what, you can get out of it too. You can share your story. You can be that voice. Is it always going to be roses and wine glasses? No, it's not. My life was hard, but I don't play that victim role, right? I don't play poor me. Oh my goodness. I have no patience for that at all. Um, I really want people to know that we have to be our own advocates. We have to be our own voices. And we really have to start standing up and saying, you know what? Some of our families are not good for us. And it's okay to leave. Society has told us that we need to respect mom and dad. We have to respect our elders. Well, you know what? Those were all the people that were hurting me. So why would I respect them when they weren't respecting me?
Absolutely. So I know in my own personal journey, I think my brother said it best. He said, well, we grew up and then we had to raise ourselves. So as you've gone back through, and obviously I assume you've been through counseling, you said hypnotherapy, different things like that. Just really trying to come out on the other side where you're not a victim. You are more than a survivor, even because you're reaching back out and you're helping the other people who are taking that journey. Um, kind of, I mean, it sounds like it wasn't just the child abuse. There was more that went into that, and I do want to get into that. But what inspired you to want to really change the rules in your own life and change the dynamics around you?
Well, for me, it wasn't only child abuse, right? It was abandonment from my parents. And abandonment we don't speak of in today's world. Oh, well, your parents left you, you went into foster care, you stay with grandparents, you stay with family members, We don't talk about abandonment and how much it impacts our lives, how much it impacts our mental health as an adult. Uh, you know, I have fear of abandonment, and I'm 50. you know I don't get close to people that say they love me. The word love is a trigger for me. Tell me you appreciate me, tell me that you adore me, but when you say love, I'm running. Like, I'm just like, I don't want that love that you all want to give me you know um so words trigger me, sounds trigger me, smells trigger me, you know because so much different types of abuse. There was mental abuse, there was financial abuse, there was domestic abuse. It was just abuse, 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 abuse. Like it was just like dominoes. It just kept falling. Like, okay, I'm getting out of this relationship. Okay, there's not going to be any abuse. Well, it's all honeymoon stage for a while, and then boof, there comes the abuse. So for many years, I felt like that was my story. That was my life. Uh, it was gonna come. If it was nice and fancy for a while, wait for the shoe to drop because it's coming. So you're always on guard. You live on guard. You live in this cage. Um, and for me, a lot of people look at me and they say, "Oh my God, you have it all together." No, even to this day, I'm in counseling. I'm healing. It's life journey. Uh, and having all of these opportunities that knock on my door, I'm just a woman that's trying and saying, you know what? They told me I was going to be nothing. I was going to be garbage. I never make anything out of my life. And here I am using what you all did to me as my inspiration, as my stepping stones to make a difference. So the garbage that you threw at me is the garbage that I'm using. And I'm making really nice stuff. It's like reuse, and repurpose is what I'm using. So it's like going to a secondhand store, a vintage store, antique store. You bring the old and you bring the new in, and you find the beauty within.
So I think your story is just so beautiful. I mean, from what I have here, and I want to go through, each chapter, if you will, and get us to where you're just like this beautiful soul in this world, putting back so much love. I just want to share that and get to that. But when you were saying, like, you're right, when people were telling you that, you need to respect your elders, you need to like listen to your parents. I mean, every time they would ask me about my parents and I would say, oh, we're not close, they would always, like, it was my fault, like, oh, well, you'll grow up, or, you'll I'm sorry, like, it was like my fault, or I needed to get out of that space and forgive my parents because they're just doing the best they can. And like, little do they know, no, you don't know my story. It's better for my health and my emotional well-being to leave, that environment.
Well, that's the thing,
Uh,
right? When people read my bio or they see all the accomplishments that I've done, They're like, who are you? And I'm just like, I'm just a woman that's trying. And people knock on my door and they're like, well, would you like to do? I guess I could try it. I don't know. You know, for me, I'm just a really strong T. And, you know, that tea was given to me at the age of 4. When the abuse came to me from an uncle, my Oma also gave me a good, strong cup of tea that made me reflect on my life, because she's the lady that inspired me to serve tea today. And that's where the tea comes from. You know, is the strong tea within ourselves, the cup that we serve, not the beverage, but the cup that we hold. What's within us, right? The inner strength. We have 3 of us here who have all gone through trauma and some form of abuse, and that as well, right? And we're all using our voices today to speak and sharing the tea within ourselves, the inner strength that they all tried to kill, that they all tried to break, and they never did.
So beautiful. So then it takes us into your second book, I think, right? You spoke about being put in psychiatric wards where you spoke about the daughter you had lost. Take us through that time. What were some internal struggles you faced during that time?
Well, in book 2, I wrote about shining through double grief was the name of my chapter, and I spoke about living grief and passing grief. I lost my daughter at the age of 14, but I also lost my 3 other children because of domestic violence, and for their own safety, I had to put them in foster care. So that's a grief, a loss of a parent. All my life, I wanted parents, I wanted loving people, and I couldn't even be this loving mom, but I had to sacrifice my children's lives over my life, because you know, parents, some parents, not all parents, but some parents, they look at their children as properties, right? Well, that's my child, I can do whatever I want with my child, don't tell me how to raise my kids. Where I my only safety was with strangers. So when I was in the foster care homes, I actually learned how to take care of myself, how to structure myself, how to dress myself, um, hygienes, like, you know, I learned all that from foster home. And when it came to the point where I had to make a choice, because my body finally had enough and it shut down, and I live with conversion disorder. And what conversion disorder is, there's no medical test out there that'll prove why your body's shutting down, but it's trauma. And the best way a doctor explained it to me was, it's from abuse over abuse over abuse. It's like going to war and your body just gets tired of fighting. So my body shut down and I went paralyzed from the hips down. Um, I thought I was having a stroke. And for many years, they checked if I had MS, because my legs, I always had trouble with my legs since I was a little girl. Um, and that, so we were wondering what was going on. So I ended up in the hospital. I had left my ex husband. He wasn't my ex at that time, but I left him, and I was a single mom with 3 kids. My body shut down. I was in the hospital. Some friends came and took care of my kids for a while, but I ended up having to learn how to rewalk again, uh, getting the muscles, setting the mind right, because it wasn't a paralyzed from an accident. It was paralyzation of trauma, and the body just said, "I'm tired. I just, I don't want to move." Um, and that, and when my kids went into care, it was a grief. I lost my children. My children call me mom, but they don't look at me as mom. Um, and for many months, I asked for help from the services. Can you keep my kids, put them in a good home? I got to pick the homes for my kids, um, and that as well. And I wanted to stay connected. I wanted to make sure my kids knew that I wasn't giving up on them. I was just making sure that they were safe and that they were okay. Um, and my worker at the time told me, you know, it takes a strong woman to make that choice for her children, to put her children's lives before her own. Um, and it's regret, because I don't have that closeness to my kids. My kids are adults now, but they're not close to me. They're not, I'm not the first call. I'm not the first person they check up on. Um, you know, so it is a struggle. And when I lost Ashley, it was a passing grief of a child that was never born. And a lot of people told me, "Oh, just get over her. She was stillborn. She never you know, she didn't even have a breath. Like, she wasn't a real human being." Like, you know, they look at stillborn as, but she was a little baby. Like, Just because she didn't breathe didn't mean she didn't exist. So, there was a lot of grief. So when I shared in book two, I shared about shining through the grief and learning the strengths and finding the strength within that grief to share as a mom, you know, that we don't talk about stillborn. We don't talk about foster care kids. Because as soon as you say, oh, well, my kids are in foster care, oh, well, you're a bad mom. What about the good moms that are asking for help?
Yeah, absolutely. My kids actually went into a shelter while I was recovering from the brain injury. And so, I mean, they didn't stay in foster care, but they were in a children's shelter for quite a bit of time. And I don't know, the parallels between our stories is fascinating to me because I also had a stillborn when I was very young. Her name is Bianca Rose. Um, and it's so interesting how you telling your story, I guarantee that people who have read that book and people who are listening to your story right now can relate to different parts of that. And hearing you, those are parts of my own story that I haven't shared. Um, and I love that you are able to walk through life where you are and that you did make the effort to keep that relationship with your kids, because I know that that can be challenging even with my kids in the house. And so um, when you take that where they're in a different environment and they're not seeing you every day and you still maintain that relationship, I just think that you should know that that's something to be proud of.
Yeah. Well, and these are the stories, Shannon, that we don't share, right? And sharing is healing because look, you're sharing parts of your story that you've never shared, that your listeners are getting to see a side of you through me sharing my story. And that's what it's all about. And our Syria, like these are the things that we do when we share our stories is we open the safety net for other people to share their stories. And that's why I share my story. And that's why I'm so real and raw. And I show the ups and downs, the authenticity of who I am. I don't hide anything. Like I said, I'm an open book. Ask me what if I'm gonna cry, I'm gonna cry. If I'm gonna laugh, I'm gonna laugh. I'm a human being, and I've been through a lot. And I think that it's important for all the listeners and for anyone who is a survivor of any form of abuse. Your voice matters and your story matters. And when you go to an event or you hear a podcast or you hear someone else sharing their story, it opens up that flow, right? Of, oh, I can share my part too. Somebody gets it. Somebody, I'm not alone. Uh, Somebody else. Now I don't feel so isolated by myself. Um, you know, and the things that I've been through, you know, a lot of us have, but we're not sharing those stories because of shame, of guilt, being told not to. We're going to lock you up. I'm 50 and I was fearful of being locked up in my 40s until my father passed away. Once my father passed away, game on. I started sharing Ashley's story. I was like, "You're not locking me up now." And my mother, well, my mother is another story, and then when the people who raised me are not actually my parents, there's so much to my story that a lot of people, one day I'll share that part of my story, but I found that out as well. Like there's so much deceit and lies and why, and then it kind of makes sense. Okay, so maybe that's where all the hate came in. That's where all the we're gonna just do whatever we want. You, there's so much that I still haven't shared that I will share one day when I feel safe to share it. Um, like I said, everyone in my story has passed except for one person. When that person passes, hopefully she'll pass before I do. Maybe then I'll get that story out there because I don't want people coming at me. Oh, here we go. She's making up stories again. Oh, she wants attention. I'm not doing any of that. Uh, If you guys would have treated me nicer, I would have wrote nicer about you, but you didn't. So guess what? That's what's going in, you know. And in book two, my youngest daughter read it, and she's like, "Mom, you made these people look evil." And I said, "That's not my goal, sweetheart. My goal was to get my story out there. I've been through a lot of stuff. A lot of adults did a lot of stuff that they did not keep their promises and keep their word. And that's all I did. When you feel like writing your story and your version, you're more than welcome to, because we all have our own version and our own perspective of how our story looks, right? Because it's like when people say, "Oh, well, you should forgive your family, your parents." You don't know what our parents put us through, so don't dare tell us that we should be forgiving these people. I forgave my parents a long time ago for myself, not for them, because they wouldn't even understand forgiveness, because that's how damaged they are. That's how broken they are. And for many years, I looked at my family and the people around me that were supposed to protect me as, okay, what happened to you as a child? What did you go through? Oh, okay. So it's a pattern, it's a cycle, it's, generational stuff. But then there's rotten people out there. There are just rotten people that like to hurt people, you know? So we can't always justify, okay, well, they were abused, so they can abuse us and then we can abuse them. No, because I was abused, I don't want to abuse my children. You know, if that's the way that it always goes, okay, well, you were an abuser, so I'm going to abuse, and then my children are going to abuse. No, that's not the way it goes. You have a choice. And the choice that I made was, I'm going to use my pain and share my story and help other people share their stories. And today we're doing it. Living proof right here. You two ladies are sharing your story because you feel safe, because I'm sharing my story.
Thank you for sharing. And yes, this is what our podcast is about. And it's been a long time coming, and it's been a very frightful path to take, but we finally made it and we're here. I want to kind of get the timeline for when you were 14, you lost Ashley, and then you said you lost the other three children. How did you meet your husband, find him? Were there red flags when you first got together with him? And then when you had the kids, and then, the kind of the timeline of what led to that.
Well, my ex-husband, I never liked him. Why I married him? I was forced to marry him. On my wedding day, my dad, they did a bet of $2. Give me $2 and you can have her. Um, I became pregnant with this man. He was a neighbor and he was always having parties. And I was just like, one day I went down, and because I was working at the age of 13 and then going to school. So I'd work 3 hours before school and then go to school and then work another 2 hours, um, so that I could survive, and that. And this guy lived downstairs, and I couldn't stand the guy. Like, he was always partying and I needed sleep. I was tired. I was little. So finally, I don't know how we got together, but we ended up sleeping together and I got pregnant. And I knew I lost Ashley and I wasn't losing another baby. Um, I was 17 and I told my father, and my father says, "Well, you know what you need to do now, because you're not having any bastard child in this family." So, so I was like, okay, uh, I don't know what I need to do. Like, what do I need to do? And he's like, "Well, you need to get married." And I was like, "But I'm still like, I'm a child." Like, um, and he's like, "Well, you wanted to play in the field, and that's the way it works. Like, you're gonna get married." And I was like, "I don't even like the guy. Like, like there was red flags about him. He had some control issues, some really stalking issues, stuff like just red flags right from the get go." So my dad gave me an option: either get married or you have the baby and we give it away for adoption. So I knew I was losing another baby that way. And I was like, no way in hell is this happening. I'm going to take some control of my life. I'm going to get married. Um, so we got married. We were married for 16 years, 16 long years. He was very abusive as well, very manipulative. Him and my father were like best friends. Um, so it was a long journey. Finally, I always told everybody, you can do whatever you want to me because I was used to the abuse, but nobody will hurt my children. Nobody will hurt what belongs to me. And when I found out that he was hurting my children, I was just like, that's it. I'm done. I'm just done. Something that was a camel in the back. And I was just like, I'm done. And I went to my parents, and my parents were you just want to be with another man. You just want to leave your husband. And no, like he's hurting your grandbabies. He's hurting your grandchildren. Like, no, 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 no. You're just making stories up. You're always making stories up. And I was just like, okay, like we're not doing this. And in 2005, I left and I never turned back. I do go home from time to time, and every time I go home, I get sick. I get very sick. I can't get out of bed for weeks. The trigger's there, the trauma's there, the night fears are there, the tremors are there. So I try to avoid. The last time I went home was last year when my grandma passed. And my family is very hard on me, but yet they want me to do everything for them. Like they're so messed up. Well, Liz is a favorite. Liz will do this. Liz will do this. And I've gone to a point because I've started sharing my story and started changing my life that I'm not going to do it anymore, guys. Like, like there's other people that can do it. Like, you know, and for me, my elders were people like my grandparents were my saviors. They were my heroes. Uh, and as they're passing, well, they're all gone now. I kind of felt like I have to be the example now in the family. I got to be that strength. Now I have grandchildren, um, and I want my granddaughter to look at me and say, you know what, my nanny is a really strong woman, and I'm going to be strong too. So, um, but we have to take things one step at a time. uh, you know, and sharing our stories in books is one step for me. Sharing my story on podcast and interviews and magazines is another stepping stone for me. Um, and I want people to know that it's okay to share your story, to have that voice, um, and let them judge you because they're going to judge you anyway, right? So
Absolutely. So, where were you in time in regards to your career? How did this affect your outside relationships?
I think by sharing in books, it started giving me my voice. My business is a different type of business. Um, Growing up, I was told money was evil. That if you have money, you're going to be a bad person. So I try to stay away from it. But through my healing journey, I'm knowing that it's okay to have money. It's the stories that were told to us, right? So for many years, my business was pro bono. It was donation if you want. If you want to help me out, you can. But everything was free. And I think growing up, being a child of abuse and being told that you would be nothing and worthless, you want to really stay away from money, right? You really want to stay from getting paid for what you can do. Um, so I'm changing that bit by bit. Uh, Doing my podcast was all pro bono. Doing Miss Liz's tea parties was all out of pocket to help raise money for different organizations that I worked with. You were more than welcome to give those donations, and they all went to those those services. Um, but I'm seeing that if I'm doing everything for free, how am I really taking care of myself, right? How am I in that? I live with mental illness, so I do live on disability, but I do have other ways of making money, raising money, doing fundraising, stuff like that. Um, and the books, but the books, there's so many books out there that books, you don't get rich on books. uh you know, my for me, it was never about making money with the books. It was always about getting the story out there and making that difference. So like I said before we started recording, is in 12 weeks there's something coming, and everybody will be like, oh wow, she's really taking another journey, another step into showing that, you know what, all of you people who told me I'd be nothing, look out because here I come. That's all I can say. I can't really say much because there's a lot of work in the background. Um, but it's going to give a platform and a place that's, I don't want to build too much, a place for what we're doing today. Um, but there's going to be money involved. So, we need money to sometimes to survive too.
That's so funny. I didn't ever think of that, but I feel that it's true. I just had a awakening moment. I think that I was also, told you won't amount to anything, you're worthless, all this stuff. And I people were like, "Hey, I want to get trained by you or something." And I'd be like, "Okay, let's just go for free." And that's my whole life. Still to this day, I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to charge." And then so I've have a client who's like, "Oh, I'm gonna pay you." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
And it feels
Um,
weird, right? When people offer money because you're like, oh, but I'm not supposed to be making anything. I'm not supposed to be changing my life. I'm not supposed to be bettering. So, the money, and a lot of people are like, no, Miss Liz, like you do amazing work. We should pay you for it. And I was like, no, 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 I'll just do it for free. I'll do it for free. Well, you know what? Miss Liz did it for free for so many years. I actually burnt out. Uh, and that's why 2025, you'll see a whole different journey with Miss Liz. You'll see affirmations on my page. I'm popping in. I'm not doing as much social media, because I want people to really look at, we got to self heal ourselves away from social media as well. It's nice to be online, but it's nice to be offline. And really treasure those moments and people around you, because they're not always going to be around. And then you can't be like, well, I wanted to do this, but now they're gone. Oh, well, you know what? You had the chance to do, but you chose to be online instead for 6 hours, instead of having a coloring contest or something with your grandkid, or you know what I mean. I like to play a lot, and a lot of playfulness is in my work. You'll see that in my in my story, like the tea books that are behind me. It's kind of like an Alice in Wonderland kind of feel, but people look at the cover and they're like, "Oh, well, that must be tea recipes and tea stuff." No, you got to look deeper, guys. The story is deep. The trauma is deep. So the rabbit holes are deep. So the fun is there. And my books are like, um, a little bit of my journey with some exercises, with some travel, because I always wanted to travel when I was little. So I take you on a ride, and that, uh, but working, I had a job and I lost my job. And that really went back into the workforce. I was really guarded. Okay, I'm going to overwork myself. It's all or nothing. And then somebody's going to fire me again, because I got fired a week after I got an award for hope and resilience for mental health. So I thought it was because, okay, I have mental health, so people's not going to hire me. They're going to fire me all the time. So I went really isolated inwards. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going to stay at home. I'm just going to focus on myself. I'm just going to do my writing, write books, and all of that. So a lot of people, they think, oh, well, Miss Liz has lots of money. I have people that reach out to me. Can I talk to your marketing team? Can I talk to your this team? And that, I was like, you're speaking to them. You're speaking to them. Like, but for work, it's a trigger for me, um, because I'm scared of people. Um, as much as I love people, as much as I like to give to people, I'm scared of people. I'm scared of getting hurt. Um, so I stay to myself. And that's something I'm working on in my healing journey, is the strangers are not going to hurt me. And some family's not going to hurt me. It's not all family that's danger. And I'm 50 and I'm living in fear of people. Um, and that's why I like to write, because the paper can't hurt me. People can, but paper can't. So that's why I like to write.
So where you're at currently and what you're doing, we're kind of running low on time. So I want to make sure that we hit on this because I think it's so important to share. And I love that you are creating platforms where people feel comfortable with their own stories. And so can you just talk to us a little bit about where you are in your healing journey, in your professional journey, what you're doing to reach back out to people and what that looks like in your life right now?
Right now, I'm in therapy for anxiety because I isolated myself for many years in this little room. So when I would go grocery shopping, I'd have panic attacks. Being around certain people that I knew personally, I was okay. But being around different people, I started getting anxiety, fearful, tremors, shakes, sweaty palms, stutter. Uh, so I reached out for help, and I'm in therapy, and I'm not afraid to say that because I think we shouldn't be ashamed of saying, you know what, I'm getting help. In my journey right now is to get back out in the force of society, the communities, getting more engaged. But steps, baby steps. Everything is baby steps with me, um, and I'll get there one day. And I think that just being true to yourself, and don't be ashamed. Like, I'm on disability and I have all these titles, and I I'm not ashamed to say it. I've been through a lot, so there's a lot of trauma. So there's days with the conversion disorder where I can't speak, I can't walk, I can't see. My body just shuts down, and I don't have any control over it. It's just the mind over matter, right? So all I do is, okay, we're gonna pause today. Oh, okay, this is what we're doing today. So then, so I'm fearful of getting out there because I don't know what my body's going to do, and I don't want people to see that side of me. On a podcast, people don't see that your legs are clubfoot or locked up, or you know or your hands are trembling or in shaking. um, People don't see that. So before we start judging people about being on disability or being change makers or storytellers, get to really know people, get to know their stories, and get to understand why. Because you didn't know the choices they had and what to choose from to get to where they are today. So again, my journey from here on is just keep spilling real tea, keep being real to myself.
I want to tell our listeners and share the amazing things you've done with sharing your stories and helping so many people around all the awards you've won. You've done Advocate for Change. You are a former ambassador for Canada's Global Peace Challenge, held leadership roles in several international organizations, including the Human Rights and Social Justice Federation. I mean, all of the things, everything that you've accomplished. So can you talk a little bit about all the amazing things that you've done and attributed to society?
Well, and for all of the opportunities that I've had knock on my door, it was they asked and I just said yes, and I tried. Uh, but I got to meet some really incredible people and got to make some incredible adventures and friendships along the way, because I like to stay connected to people. Like, I hope that we stay connected after this interview so that that we can see where we can open other doors, where we can collaborate. If I know somebody that might help share another story, I'm more than open to that. Um, but having those opportunities to work with international people really gave me the insight to show everyone that it's all around the world. Everyone's dealing with mental health. Everyone's dealing with abuse. Everyone's dealing with grief, and we need to start sharing that. It's not just in Canada. It's not just in the United States. It's worldwide. And by being a voice and sharing our stories, and by doing these interviews and podcasts and stuff like that, we're making a difference. We're creating a ripple effect. And I really think that if we stay real, raw, and authentic to ourselves and just be who we are, the ups, the downs, the roller coasters, the ins, the outs, we're going to make a difference. We're going to impact the world, and we're going to change it one cup at a time. And when I say cup, I don't mean a beverage, I mean the cup of ourselves. Really stay true to yourself, inspire yourselves. Look in the mirror. For the longest time, I couldn't look in the mirror because I was scared of the mirror. I was like, oh my God, this is a monster in front of me. But now I look in the mirror and I'm just like, where are we going today, girl? Like, what are we doing? And then my cat will look at me, mama, mama, and I was like, yeah, I think mom's gonna do that today. Like, we're gonna try that today. Even before I came, And to the interview today, I was just like, oh my God, like, how am I going to do this? I haven't done one in a while. Um, am I going to stutter? Am I going to ramble on? I'm probably rambling. But you know what? Ramble's a good thing because it's a good flow. It's like a cup of tea. You put a bunch of stuff in your tea and you just never know where you're going to go with it. You get some sweetness, you get some bitter tea, you get grinds in your mouth. It all comes back to a tea. So, like, for me, all of the things that I've done, I'm grateful for, and I'm blessed. Some of them were lessons, some of them were blessings, and I take them all into stride. But if anybody would like to know like more about what I've done or anything like that, you're more than free to just go check out Miss Liz's websites or like website. I slipped. I can't give out too much information, but there is good things coming, and that's all I can say is I'm not done. I'm just starting. I'm 50 and I'm just starting. I got another 50 years in me to do different and be different and get different results. So
So awesome. I had a milestone birthday this year as well. And it makes you think, like, what impact am I making? Where am I going next? And it's pretty exciting stuff. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you do next and to keeping this line of communication open. I think that we could probably continue talking for a lot longer. If you were to tell us, being in the black, which is the title of our podcast, is about being in a positive place in your life. And so obviously we're really trying to showcase people who started out in the red, they were in a very negative place, and they've created this positive space in their own lives and in the lives of people around them. And so in your life, what does being in the black mean to you?
being in the black is that shadow, right? That's your friend. So carry that shadow with you, and just take a journey, and you just never know where it might go. I My best friend is my shadow, and the black, being in the black is my shadow, because you just never know where I'm going next. I don't know where that shadow's taking me, so I go with the flow. But it's really been transformational for me. It's been inspiring. It shows the resilience that lives within me. Uh, so being in the black is an awesome thing.
I love that. It seems like you're a yes, you just take wherever life is taking you, you just say yes to it. So, you already answered this, but where can our listeners find you?
Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't give you the website site. It's www.misslizsteatime, no s.com. You can find me on all social media platforms: TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Sky Blue, all of those good stuff. Macedon, there's a lot of things. Reddit, I'm all over. I like to jump into all of the different platforms because there's different audience, different listeners. And you might save one life on each platform. So if you got 20 different platforms, was that 20 people? So that's the way I look at it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and for visiting with us. This has been incredible. And I'm very, very thankful that you came on here today.
Well, I believe that the universe has sent me to everybody that comes into my life. So thanks to the universe again for incredible connections and for this incredible conversation, because I see the smiles on your faces, and I know that I've spilled the tea with you guys.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of In the Black. I hope today's story left you feeling inspired and reminded of the incredible strength that lies in each of us. Our guest today has taken her toughest challenges and transformed them into something beautiful, reminding us all that even in the darkest moments, there's always a way to find light in the world.
If you enjoyed today's conversation, make sure to subscribe and share In the Black with another woman who could use a little encouragement. Together, we're building a community of passion, purpose, and power. Until next time, stay strong, stay inspired, and remember, your story matters. Your choices change things, and being your most authentic self can and will change the world around you.
You're an established best-selling international co-author, international keynote speaker. So, tell us a little bit about that. How did you get there?
Well, international best-selling author came with The Sacred Hearts Rising, came with the Unstoppable Gems book. I believe another one that was international was Invisible Souls. Was also another international book. So there was a couple of books that went international, but they were anthology books. So there was other stories as well. With
Mhm.
the international speaking, I went and spoke for Sean Fair in 2021, I believe it was. It's been a couple of years. Was it? Yeah, 2021. I spoke in Detroit, and what I do is when I speak and write, I write a T. So I like to get people to see the T in a different way. Um, but Sean Fair was a really life experience for me because I've flown by myself, did it by myself, had no support once again, but I did it for myself. Um, the International Human Rights, and that was a federation platform where we brought awareness to women's rights, children's rights, human rights. And I got to work with four incredible guys, two from India, one from Malaysia, and one from the United States. Um, and I was the lady that hosted the interviews and did the questioning and promoting and stuff like that as well. Um, and then for the Rotary Club, they found me online and they wanted me to represent Canada. And when they reached out to me, I was like, sure, I don't have a problem with this. Let's try this. And then I became the director for a ARHI, I believe it is. It's been a couple of years. Um, and I was the directory for rape and accuracies against women. And I was just a voice and platform for that as well. So there was a lot of things that I got to do
Yeah.
that that it was just asked and I did. And for the Global Peace Ambassador program project, it was a man who started it in he had a dream and two ladies nominated me, and I was just like, okay,
Uh,
well, I love peace and harmony, right? So sure, what do I got to do? And it was just us getting together. So we made a music event that's 3 hours that you can still see on Cash and Trade, I believe it's called. So you'll see 3 hours on there. I got to work with 60 different people from around the globe. So we had 60 different ambassadors. I'm still connected to, I think, like 40 of them. We touch base from day to day to once a month. We check up on each other. We support each other. And the titles, a lot of people look at me because of the titles, but I don't want to be known for the titles. I want to be known for who I am. I want to be known as Miss Liz. And Miss Liz is a name that my Oma gave me at the age of 4. So like it's not a stage name. It's what she used to call me, Miss Liz, come here. And I'd be like,
uh,
oh, okay, I'm in trouble. Like, so I stay connected to my upbringings and my lessons, the good things in my life. Um, and my Oma called me Miss Liz, and I miss my Oma. And my Oma was the one that gave me my tea. And the tea that she gave me was tea of words because she knew I was going to have a hard life. She knew how sick the family was.
uh,
But her herself, she didn't have the strength to be that voice. So it was almost kind of like she wanted to pass it down to me to be the voice for the family because she knew one day I would be that voice. And the words that she gave me was recharge, reflect, and release. And when I was little, I was like, I don't know what these words are. It's like, what are we? But as I got older, I understood that I had to recharge myself from all of the trauma and that. I had to reflect on the choices and chances that I get in life, the opportunities just to try, right? Be that yes woman and release, just release all the sickness. I don't need to carry it with me. That's their burden. That's not my burden to carry.
that's so beautiful. She sounds like a wonderful woman, very wise.
She was.
Um,
So it is Miss Liz's tea parties and tea time. Um, and for me, parties is community gathering. It's not a woohoo kind of thing. It's bringing people together. And that's my whole mission in life, is bringing people together, because growing up I didn't have people together. It was dysfunction, right? It was division. It was, we're not going to uncle's house, or we're not going to grandma's house, or there was so much division. It was just so, for me growing up, I always wanted the gathering. I always wanted family. I wanted community. I wanted to celebrate. So that's what tea time is all about. So we're working on doing something so that people understand the tea a little bit more, because a lot of people, when they hear tea time, they think of a beverage.
Mhm.
Miss Liz is not a beverage.
You had received numerous awards equating to a humanitarian award in Canada, as well as many different countries around the world. So that's really amazing. Can you speak about that?
I was given two honorary doctorates for my humanitarian voice, and being that the mentor and example for others. I'm very blunt and very straightforward and very real and authentic, and I think that's what a lot of people are not used to, and that's what I received the awards for. And I do a lot of work for other people. I'm that person. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Well, you know what? Yes, I can, but sometimes it's a no, I can't anymore. So, but I was that person. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. But I finally got burnt out, and I was just like, I can't do it anymore. And the podcast, for me, I find that the podcast world is losing its authenticity. A lot of people are just like, they just want the content. They're not interested in the story, you know. What I really liked about this podcast is that you guys ask questions. We email back and forth. We had that communication. Some podcasts are just like, I want you to be my guest. Here's the link. Oh, okay, but do you want any information about me? Like, do you need to buy? No, 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 just be a guest. Oh, okay. uh, I'm not the right person for your platform.
Oh,
So I really look at who requests to have me as a guest, and I try to see if it aligns with my purpose and my story. And when you guys reached out, I was just like, absolutely 100%. Like, I love what you guys are doing. um you know and we need more podcasts like you guys have
oh,
out there. But I find that Miss Liz is on a mission to bring something different, that people are going to be like, it is a time for change. There's so many podcasts out there that I find that there's too many fish in the pond.
mhm.
And my anxiety is just like overwhelmed with, we got this. And my biggest pet peeve was, they have podcast listing and awards for fashion and and community, like celebrities and stars and all of that, and spotlights, but they don't have any categories for education or storytelling. Why do we not have these categories in the podcast world for awards? These are where the awards should be going to. That's how I feel. So platforms like what you guys have here and what I was doing, I feel we're not being heard. And that frustrates me, because growing up not being heard, guess what? Miss Liz likes to get heard. So it's time for a change.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for saying that. It's good to hear. Uh, I, I mean, we did this out of passion for sharing our stories, and we just had this something, on us, just weighing on us. And then we just came to it like, I didn't want to start a podcast because, like you said, there's so many podcasts, always just another podcast. But the way we just came to like, oh, how can we share a platform? Like have a platform for people to share, women to share their stories of like, hey, I've been through something, and it didn't keep me down. Like this is what I've, created out of it, and helping others see that, hey, you don't have to be down there. Here's my hand. Let me pull you out. Um, and then what you said earlier about being yes, and the yes, 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 that's me too. I mean, I did that for so long, and I've noticed that my body just shuts down. Like I get sick. Like this weekend, I felt it coming. I just am doing a lot right at this moment, and I just knew there was like something that needed to be released, And I didn't want it to come in the form of sickness, but it did. So
But I think
I know that
I think that comes from trauma, right? Anybody that goes
yeah,
through trauma will be that, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Because we want to show trauma that we're not weak, right? We want to
yeah.
show that, no, you're not gonna take me out. So yes, I am. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. But then our bodies say, you know what? No, you can't. You need a break. Like, enough is enough. That was a hard lesson for me to learn, was that I needed to take a break. I was just like, 1 year I did 161 interviews,
Yeah.
and I was just, yes, I can. Yes, I can. I was just getting people like, and can I be anybody? And oh, sure, 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 sure. I was like a robot,
Yeah.
where I had to really pause, because I like to be 100% with my guests, right? And I like to know who they are. I like to do my homework. I like to stalk them, like you said, like, check them out and say, like, oh, this really is incredible, instead of just saying, well, I'm going to get to know you when I come on your platform. But who are you? Oh, okay. Well, so you didn't do any homework. You didn't do any. So you know what I mean? Those are the things. But I think, yes, I can comes from trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so nice like having people on and then just kind of discovering things about, ourselves as well. So it's eye-opening and I hope it's as helpful as it is to us, to our listeners. So thank you so much for coming on here and sharing. And I hope that we can, like you said, we can help each other in the future. And I can't wait to see what you have in store next.
12 weeks, 12 weeks. Well,
12
we're
weeks.
giving we're giving it 12 weeks. If everything goes good, 8 weeks, but I'm giving that extra couple of weeks just in case there's some little hiccups. So, but there's change coming, and it's time for a voice to be the change.
Yeah,
A lot of people look at me as a mentor and an example, and sometimes my example isn't the best either. So I want to show that up and down, right? I want to show people that being real and authentic is what's going to really change us. Don't have it all perfect. If you got bloopers, you got bloopers. I love bloopers, because if you can't say something right, well, you know what? At least you tried. You were trying, so give a little bit of credit to that.
yeah,
These are the things that I just want to do with my story, is I just want to show people that just try. And you don't need the certificates, and you don't need the awards to do the difference. Yes, they're nice and I do appreciate them, but that's why I don't really speak on them, because even without those awards, I'm still going to be who I am.
Step away from the noise. Step into your power. Imagine waking up to the sound of waves, journaling with the sunrise, and ending your evenings with soulful reflections under the stars. Hi, I'm Araceli, and I want to invite you to the In the Black experience. This is more than a retreat. It's a space for deep healing, creativity, and connection with like-minded women. If you're ready to transform your pain into powerful purpose, the In the Black experience is calling you. Spots are limited. Reserve your place today. You'll find that link in the show notes, or follow us on Instagram and you'll find the link in our bio.